This podcast is brought to you by Australia's LGBTQIA+ community media organisation, Joy. Keep Joy on air by becoming a member, a subscriber or donate. Head to joy.org.au. Joy, a diverse sound for a diverse community.
Hey you, yeah you in the cafe. Did you know that a big portion of people who listen to Joy at work, just like you? Right now, times are very tough financially, and without your support, Joy may not be around to help you through your workday. So tell your next door neighbour, your friends, and even your dad to head over to joy.org.au and help us build Joy Nation by making a donation. Joy, your voice, your radio station.
Across Melbourne on Joy 94.9 and streaming online at joy.org.au, you're listening to Saturday Magazine, every Saturday 10 till 12.
And yes, you are listening to Saturday Magazine at Joy 94.9 from the Victorian Pride Centre. Here we are, Macca.
If you thought you were listening to something else, you're going to be very disappointed.
Of course.
Our next guest is Dr. Meg Elkins, Senior Lecturer in Economics from RMIT. We're going to talk to Meg about, this is going to be good, moral foundations, vaccine hesitancy and conspiracy theories.
Lots of topics there.
Oh, good morning, Meg. How are you?
Good morning, Macca. How are you?
Oh, look,
Good.
I love a good conspiracy theory.
Can you share with us your favourite
what's your
conspiracy
favourite
theory,
one?
please?
My favourite conspiracy
Yeah,
theory?
yeah.
The ones that are most, the ones that are most known are the moon landing.
Yes.
Also,
that
that it's faked. There's September 11.
Yes.
That is the most famous conspiracy theory that the building wasn't meant to collapse. Heaps about JFK, but more current ones we know about are QAnon and the QAnon cabal and the underground pedophile link that's related to the whole QAnon conspiracy theories. They're probably the most relevant right now.
Yeah.
But QAnon, of course, kind of fell away a little bit once the Q drops weren't actually delivered.
Yeah, and I think the pedophile run out of the Washington pizza shop was a good one.
That was fascinating.
And
There's an amazing
with Hillary Clinton at the head of it.
Called, yeah. If you want to listen to that, there's an amazing podcast called The Rabbit Hole by a couple of journalists out of New York Times. And wow, that is so interesting.
Okay, now explain to us, why do people believe this stuff?
Because they're stupid.
Well, this is really interesting. No, don't start with that. They're not stupid. They just have different moral foundations and information biases. The way we process information is really interesting. That when you read something, it's like your press secretary immediately jumps in and it either accepts what you read or it dismisses it. And if you accept it, then you're going to keep going down that rabbit hole either way to find ways to confirm what you already believe. So we process information that supports what we already believe. And there's this righteous gene within us, this very powerful righteous gene that wants to confirm what we think we know is true. And what we think we know is true is different to people who actually believe conspiracy theories. And that's where it gets really interesting.
I still don't get it. How can people believe this stuff, though?
I think it triggers something inside of them where they think, oh, yeah, I thought that was the case. They're to some degree suspicious of government, of information, of what we're being fed. In terms of that distrust of authority, the distrust of authority is really high, and their default position is to go towards the conspiracy rather than perhaps the screw-up. I mean, most conspiracy theories, in fact, screw-ups. They're not actually they're not actually, proved to be the case, but sometimes, just sometimes, they are actually true. Now, can I tell you a really interesting one that just
yes, please.
has come about? So there's two that we know about, that Wuhan lab leak out of, that the virus actually came out of a lab leak in Wuhan. Now, that was absolutely lauded as a conspiracy theory when it first came out. In fact, Facebook, if you put up that the virus was out of a lab leak in Wuhan, it immediately blocks your post. Now, a year or so on, they're actually investigating these theories as being potentially true. So, I don't know, I'm going to ask you, when you first heard that the coronavirus came out of a lab in Wuhan, did you believe it or did you dismiss it?
I did not believe it, and I also thought that it was people muckraking and just... I mean, I also understand that people like to have answers to questions, and that this was a way of answering this question. Where did it come from? Everybody wants to know where... It's like HIV. Everybody wants to know where it came from, and sometimes we just don't know.
And we don't know, but the interesting element was we blocked it off. The other one was, of course, UFOs. Recently, they've actually opened the files on UFOs. Now, we don't call them UFOs anymore. I think they call them unidentified flying phenomena or something like this. But both elements...
IFPs.
Was an element of control. What were they called? They don't call them UFOs anymore.
IFPs.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, sorry, UFPs. Unidentified
UFP.
flying phenomena.
Phenomena. So they're not objects, they're phenomena. So both of these elements actually, if you actually believe it already, you're going to go down that way. And if you don't, you're going to dismiss it. What's interesting about the Wuhan lab leak is it was brought up by Trump. And if you weren't a supporter of Trump, your instinct was to immediately dismiss it. And now that Biden's brought it up, and is the one, or their government is the one that's investigating it, that's where we start to see some level of echo chamber or political polarisation in the way we filter news.
I think one of the interesting things about, some of these conspiracy theories, whether or not it's the moon landing, whether or not it's JFK, whether it's the Wuhan virus, is human nature. There are people that will be receptive to this, but the reality is a conspiracy, 9/11, something as huge as that. Just imagine for a second, trying to keep everyone that was involved in that quiet, not ever telling anyone or ever
You can't.
speaking of it. I mean, I think, Meg, look, they're interesting.
Well, that's the interesting thing about climate change as well. How do you get that many scientists together in a room and get them to agree on falsified data? As a scientist and a researcher myself, that is where the incredulity about their claims comes in, because we know the way research works, and it's peer-reviewed and it's subject to scrutiny. So we don't set up conspiracy theories when we do our research. At least I hope. I don't.
Meg, I've got a couple of interesting bits of feedback from some of our listeners. One of our listeners, 374, I'll call them because they're the last three digits of their phone number, says, "Don't forget we went to war on apparent WMDs." I think that means weapons of mass destruction.
Yes, weapons
Shock
of mass
horror
destruction.
turned out to be untrue. And, of course, one of our regular listeners, 317, says that their favourite ever conspiracy theory is that Elvis is still alive.
Oh, and there's another one that the favourite conspiracy is that Macca, is actually a fascist in disguise.
But Meg, look, the other interesting angle on all of this is, and I think this is sort of what came out of the whole fake news movement that Trump really sort of spearheaded, which is that opinions began to sort of almost become truths. So people were no longer relying on facts and evidence and science, before they formed an opinion. They're quite happy to say, well, this is what I think, and that's true, and that's it. And so all of a sudden this sort of opinion-driven phenomenon or movement has taken over. Is there a correlation between conspiracy theories and opinion-making in that sense?
From my mind, this is driven to some extent by social media and our bubbles and our inability to filter. That if I look at your Facebook feed or Twitter feed or Instagram feed, it's going to be very different to mine, and that's going to form my worldview, and I'm going to only look towards information that supports what my worldview is. I don't know about you, but a whole lot of people recently have been talking about culling people from their Facebook groups that disagree with them. But some research has actually shown that the more diverse groups of friends that you have within your social network, the better framed you have towards your opinions. We just seem to think everyone thinks like us because our opinions are pushed back to us. And often those opinions, it's more based on that emotion rather than reasons. We're not rational. I mean, this idea that humans are rational, we're not. We're emotional beings, and we respond to information with emotion. We're not Spock, right? We're more like Homer Simpson than we are like Spock. And if you can think that, we're not going, calculate this probability of this potentially being the case. We don't do those hard probabilities. We just do quick mental accounting to work out whether we think something's true or not.
Yes.
And this is how the facts versus opinions come out, where we're not Spock, we're Homer.
Meg, we've run out of time. It's been a really fascinating conversation and a bit of fun too, actually. So I really thank you for your time and thank you for sharing with us some of your reflections and some of the work that you're doing on the formation of conspiracy theories.
And when we're out of lockdown, Meg, you can come and join us at our fake moon set here.
I'll be there. I will be there.
JFK's hiding behind a moon rock, but don't worry about that.
And Elvis Presley's in the other studio.
I was tempted to bring up the JFK one because
yes,
that's one of the originals.
It is.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Meg.
Meg.
Thanks, Macca. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Saturday Magazine, every Saturday from 10 until noon on Joy 94.9.
Thanks for listening to another Joy podcast brought to you by Australia's LGBTQIA+ community media organisation, Joy. Help keep Joy on air. Head to joy.org.au. Joy, a diverse sound for a diverse community.